Hello, this is the Cobra MTX230C, which is a 3-in-1 multi-tool with a 23cc Cobra engine. And this is how it arrives in a box like this. So what I'm going to do is take it out the packaging, lay it all out on the table, show you the contents, and then I'll show you how to assemble it and get it ready for use in the garden. Well, as you can see, you get quite a lot in the box with this multi-tool set. So let's just go through it very quickly. So first thing is you've got here the Cobra engine and the main drive shaft. We've got the handle that will fit onto there later. It's also got the shoulder strap just to make it easier to use. It comes with a fuel bottle so you can make your own 2-stroke oil there. Then down here we've got the various attachments. So this one here is what we would use for the brush cutter that fits in an extension of the main drive shaft. And we've got two options with this. We've got either the nylon cutting head or we've got the steel blade there for tougher weeds and woody subjects. And of course, the guard that goes on the end of the shaft just to protect you from flying debris in there. We've also then got the pole saw attachment. So this has got the bar and it's got the chain and the chain guard on there for safety. And then the third attachment is this. This is the hedge cutter trimmer here that's articulated so we can alter the angle of that for whatever we're doing, whatever size hedge we're cutting. So we've got everything we need there, including a toolkit. And there is one more piece, which is an extension shaft. Now you would use this maybe if you're using the pole saw or the hedge cutter and you want to get even higher, you can put this third piece in. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to fit these. So this is the main unit here with the drive shaft, and this is one of the extensions that we can put into it. So it's very simple. What we need to do is first of all take off this protective cover that we've got here. So that just protects it, because inside here we've got the drive shaft that runs the length of this steel tube all the way from the engine. And if we look into this one just here, we can see that we've also got the drive shaft in there. So we've got to link those two together. I'm going to slacken off this black wing nut here, and there's a pin on this side that if I just tilt it over, that we pull out like that. So I'm just going to pull that out, and that will line up with the holes in the end of the shaft here as a locking mechanism. So I'm just going to put that into there, and then I'm going to pull the pin out, just give it a wiggle, and if I twist that, that will click in as it goes into the hole. There you go, it clicked in. And then it's just tighten that up to make sure that everything is secure and tight in place. And that's how simple and fast it is to change the drive shaft. So if you're changing from brush cutting to hedge cutting, it can be done in just a matter of a couple of minutes. So what I'll do now is show you how to assemble the 3 different attachments. So we'll start with the brush cutter. This is it. So it's already got the head attached. We never take that off. That lives on there permanently. And it's onto this that we can put the nylon cord or the triangular 3-bladed brush cutter. So what we're going to do first is fit the guard, the safety guard. So the tools are supplied. So what we need is one of the Allen keys in here. It's the smaller of the two. And we're going to take this apart. So just a case of taking this apart, and then we're going to fit it around the shaft. Right, okay, so they're all undone. So that lifts off, so pop that there, and then this plate comes out from underneath. So that's going to be attached around the drive shaft. But what we need to do is take out this other little nut here using the same Allen key. So that is just going to take out, just needs to crack it open, and that will then just screw out. And then we can fit that black bracket onto there. It comes complete with a little washer, so we need to save the washer. So what we do is put the washer back onto there, and then this fits on underneath there like that. But we've got to pad it because that will vibrate. So you'll notice there is this piece of rubber which goes around the shaft at the end like that, and we can position it so it sits in like a little cradle basically. And then we can put our nut back into there and tighten that up. And the idea of the split washer there is that again will hold it really tight and it stops it vibrating out. So just finger tight for now, so we've got a little bit of movement on it, because now we can attach this is the guard, which fits underneath like that. So it slides into position. So that's underneath there. I'm just holding it in place for now, and we've got the rubber cushion there. So then we can take the top that we've already taken off, put that back in, line it up, and then we can tighten that all down. Again, really tight with that so that it squashes it onto that rubber band that's around it. Okay, so we want those nice and tight like that. And then finally, the one that we put in finger tight, we just need to finish that one off as well. So just get your Allen key and tighten that round to make sure that it's tightened onto that spring washer. So that is the guard on. I'll show you how to take the head off. Bear in mind that this is a left-hand thread, so it's clockwise to loosen it and anti-clockwise to tighten it, so the opposite to normal. And it's got also a locking mechanism, so you'll notice at the back there's a hole and this pin comes with it. So if you just pop that in the hole and twist it, it will then lock it into place, so that when we put the socket on there, we can turn it. So the socket on there, I'm going to use one of the Allen keys through there, and then we can give that a twist to take that off. So that's loosened it. So take the nut off. Okay, and then the cover comes off like that, and then there is also this base one here, these base ones there. So to put the nylon one on, we put that on, that one goes back on, and it's got the cog, so it locks it into place, and then we can get our nylon head. So we remember this is going on anti-clockwise to tighten it, holding the pin still in place. So spin it round, and when it's tight, give it a really good tight, and that pin is stopping that from twisting. So that now won't vibrate off. We can take the pin out. When you buy it, you'll see it's got these loops like that. Take those out. This is an automatic feed as well. So when you're using this, when you bang it on the ground, it will automatically release more of the cord. And if it releases too much, it will cut it to the right length with this cutter here. So you don't have to do it manually, it's just bang it down. So what we'll do is take that off, and then I'll show you how to put the blade in. So it's the reverse. So we just get the pin, hold it in, twist it until it drops into position, and then we're going to twist it in a clockwise direction to loosen it off. So that's that, put that to one side. So then we can take out the blade. So this is perfect if you've got really tough weeds and woody stems. It comes with a protective cover on there because it is quite sharp. So I would leave that on while you're fitting it, and only take it off when you start to use it. So we've stripped it down. So what we do with this is now we take off this cover here, and we don't need this for this one, so we can put that again somewhere safe, and then this will fit over the collar in the center just there. Then we can get this cup that we had on initially and just fit that on, and then we're back with the bolt, and again it's a anti-clockwise direction to tighten it because of the left-handed thread. I've got the pin in still at the back, so that's holding it. And then the socket to just tighten that on. And a good tighten on there like that. Okay. So that is now ready for cutting those really tough weeds. And when you want to take the cover off, it's very simple. Just very simply unhooks and stretches off like that. And there you can see the blade. And then you can cut, and when you're finished with it, again just for safety, it's always a good idea to put this on so that it's not going to come to any harm at all. Like that, it just clips on onto there, and that clips back into position like that. So really, really simple to change them, but make sure that you do keep these in a safe place. So that's how you would change the heads on the brush cutter. Next, we've got here the hedge cutter. So again, we've already looked at how that fits on. So we would take the cover off, line it up with the shaft, and lock it into place. Just want to show you how this works, because this is what we call an articulating head. So we can use this in various positions. So this is the blade. It's got a blade cover on it for your safety. These are very sharp, so I always advise you to leave that on until you're actually cutting. But to alter the angle of this, what we do is we pull down this red sleeve here, and then we can twist it round into whatever position you want, and it will again lock into position. So we've got, as we can see, all these positions. So it means that when you're cutting the hedge, you could do the side of the hedge like that. So if you want to cut the top of a hedge and have it flat, then we just twist it right the way round, and then we can lock it into position. It needs to lock in. That is really important. If this cover isn't at the top and it hasn't clicked into a hole, the blade won't work, because it won't have connected with the gearing inside the gearbox there. And then that just means you can then use it in that flat position to do the top of a hedge. And when you are using it, obviously you would slide that off to do the cutting, and put that again back in position when you're storing it. So really, really easy to use. There's also a grease nipple on the top of these. You'll notice there are several. There's one here and one there. These are already packed with grease in the factory, but follow the instructions in your manual and keep these topped up with grease, just to make sure that everything is working properly and prolong the life of it. So that is how you do the hedge cutter. And finally, we've got the pole pruner here. So this is the cutting head where the blade and the chain attaches. This is our oil reservoir to keep it lubricated. So what I'll do is we'll put this on the bench now, and I'll show you how to assemble it so that you can put it onto the multi-tool engine. This is really easy to do. What we need to do is actually put the bar and the chain on it. So for this, you'll need the spanner and the screwdriver that's provided. And first of all, I'm going to take off this nut. It shouldn't be too tight when you get it. So we take the nut off, and this plastic cover that goes there. This is what we call the chain bar. Before we fit the bar and chain, I just want to show you how the bar goes onto the mechanism here. So it slides into that position there, and then obviously the chain will go around it and around the sprocket just here. And you'll notice here we've got an adjuster, and this is how we would tension the chain, and it's finger tight at this point. And what we need to do is, when it's fitted, this little lug here has to sit over into that hole there, so that as we adjust it, we can slide that backwards and forwards to tension the chain. So to get it on, it makes it easier if we put that as far back as we can, so that the chain is almost touching there. It just gives us a little bit more slack, and then we can adjust it out to tension it. So the chain is in this box here. So I'm going to wear a pair of gloves to do this, because they are quite sharp. So I'm just going to slide it out onto the bench so you can see it. So it's a very good Oregon chain, what the professionals use, so that will make a great job of cutting. I'm going to put on a pair of gloves. Now it's important that you put the chain on in the right direction. So just unfurl the chain like that. So there we can see we've got the chain. Now when these are cutting, the blade cuts on the downside of the bar, so we need it to be that the cutting edge of the blade, which is here, if we can see that is the actual cutting edge of the blade, is going to be cutting in that direction. Okay, so that if we put it on that way, it's going to be cutting in the wrong direction, because the blade is facing that way, this little piece here. So it's really important that you do that, and it's just a case of fitting it in. There's a sprocket at the end there. Just going to lift that up with the screwdriver so I can get my finger underneath it. It is a little bit fiddly, but once you've got it in, it's all falls into place like that. So that goes in the groove down both sides of the bar. Because you've got gloves on, you can actually grip that there and hold that into place. So if we loop the chain around the back sprocket, and then it will go on, and we just need to then give it a little bit of a wiggle, and we can see now that the pin is popped up there in the centre, and we've got the chain. We do need to tension it, but what we have to do now is hold that in place. I'm actually going to take off one of my gloves, and I'm going to then put the chain cover back on like that, and then we can put the nut on and tighten that into place. So that will hold that now, and then I'll show you how you adjust it. So that is the chain on. So we've tightened that up, but as we can see, the actual chain is quite loose on the bar, and that potentially could come off when you're using it. So we need to tension it. And again, there's a little screw at the back that we do use to tension it. But in order to tension it, we have to just slacken off this nut a little bit, because that's holding everything firmly in place and it won't slide. So just slacken that off a little bit, and then we can use the screwdriver, and we're actually going to screw it in. So it's screwing it in, pulls back the bar. That should then tension the chain around the bar, and I can feel that is now starting to go. There, we've got that tight. We don't need it too tight. There's got to be a little bit of give in it, and the chain will actually slacken with wear. So refer to the manual, but that's what we normally need, that little bit of slacking it, but not loose. And then finally, of course, to lock that in position, we need to get the spanner on and just tighten that so that nothing can come loose. So that is the chain on there, nice and tight. And then of course what we need to do is put the chain guard on it, so that protects the chain and it protects you, and then I can do away with the gloves for this. The other thing we need to do with this, you'll notice on the back of it here, it's got a little tank, and that is the chain lubrication in there. So what we need to do is to fill that up with some oil. So I've got some chain oil here. This is a specific oil that is used for these chains. So, and that is just going to be poured into there. So it's quite a thick oil. Okay, so we can clearly see that as well through the little tank. Put the top back on there. So what that will do is that will automatically lubricate the chain as it's cutting, and that keeps it everything moving in there and stops it from overheating. And the other thing to notice with this is there's also a little grease nipple on the top. Again, this gear in here is packed with grease, but every now and again you need to just make sure that you put a grease gun on there and get some grease into it. So that is ready now to be attached onto the multi-tool, and you can use it for high-level pruning in trees. So now we know how to put all the different heads on the different attachments. We need to look at the actual engine unit and make sure that that's ready for use. So what we do need to do is to fit on this handlebar here. Really, really easy. This goes on like this on the shaft. It just gives you something to steady it and hold it. So what we need is to use the small Allen key and just to undo all of these bolts. So we're taking the 4 bolts out, and then it will come into 2 halves. So I'll just take those out. Right, so they're now all loose, and that comes into 2 parts like that. So this is going to fit around the shaft, and here we've got an anti-vibration rubber, so that just stops that hand vibration when you're holding it, and it sits underneath it, and you'll see there's a groove there and a ridge on the top of the rubber, so that sits snugly like that, and then we can pop that piece back onto it, and then we can screw that down into place. And then we need to get those really tight so it squashes onto that anti-vibration rubber. So that's the end of the Allen key for a minute. While I'm here, we've got the shoulder strap to put on as well. So this just makes it much easier when you're using this, whether you're brush cutting or hedge trimming or using the pole saw. It goes over your shoulder and it clips onto there like that. So I'm just going to clip that on, and we can adjust that to suit. So that's a really important part of the use of it. Before we start the engine, I'm just going to take off the extension that we put on at the beginning of the video. We only use the extension with the hedge cutter and the pole saw. So what we do, of course, to take it off is just undo the wing nut there, we pull out the pin, and then just give that a bit of a wiggle, and that's the extension out in seconds. And I've got the cap that I put in my pocket to put on there, and we can put that somewhere safe now until we need it for another job. And I've got here the brush cutter head that we've assembled with the blade on there, so we're going to fit this on. So again, it's just a reverse procedure. Take off the cap, and then we pull out the pin so it lines up with the shaft and the hole. Just wiggle that in like that, and then wait for it to click in like that. You can see it's gone in, and that is nice and tight, and just finish it off by tightening up the wing nut. So that is secure, and we can now use that for brush cutting in the garden. So the engine itself, really easy to use and to start, and the controls are very simple. On the handlebar here, we've got a soft handlebar here, again anti-vibration. We've got the trigger throttle there that gives us the revs, and we've got the on and off switch. Stop is forward, so that's designed when you're using it, you can switch it off and the engine will stop immediately. To start it, we have to pull it back. It will not start unless it's full pulled back, so that's really important to remember that. And this one, we can lock the throttle on, so we just pull the trigger up, push the button down, and we do that for starting the engine. So this is the Cobra engine at the back. This one runs on two-stroke fuel, which is a mix of oil and petrol. And it's important that you get the right ratio, and the ratio will be in the manual, so make sure you get that correct. If you don't put it in, the engine won't run as well and you can do some damage. So oil and petrol mix is important, and only use fresh petrol. Use E10, the unleaded petrol with the oil in it, but it doesn't last as long as the old petrols that we used to get. They sort of lose their quality. So ideally use the petrol within 30 days to prevent it starting to go stale, and that way you'll get much better performance from the engine. So I'm pouring in my ready mixed two-stroke into there, and that should be enough, I think, to start this off. Put the cap back on, and then we're ready to start the engine. So I'll just get rid of that. Starting is very simple. We've got the pull start here. We've got a choke, which is on the top here. So it's this little lever here. So that tells us that the choke is open, that is closed. So to start it, we need to close the choke. So flick it across there. This is an automatic choke, so when you touch the throttle to rev it, it will switch off. So if I put it on when the engine's running and I give it some revs, it switches off. So I'm going to put my throttle on, put the choke on, and we've also got a primer button on this little rubber button, and what we do is push that several times, and what that will do is pump, and you can see it's now filling with fuel. It will pump the fuel from the tank up into the carburettor, and we have to do that every time we start the engine from cold. So we push it several times. I'm doing it a few more because this has never been started. It's a brand new engine, so I need to get rid of all the air in the pipe. So this is it, we're ready now. So we're switched on here, we've got the choke on, we've primed it with our two-stroke fuel. So it's just a case of giving it a few pulls. It's a new engine, it might take a few pulls, and then when the engine is running and ticking over, we can rev it, get it warm, and we can use it then in the garden. There you go, starts really easy, and of course just push that button forward to switch it off. So it's now ready to use in the garden. It's really easy to change the different cutting heads on there, but always refer to the manual to find out how not only to install them on there, but also how to use it and the maintenance, and then use it safely around the garden.
Remember to register your Cobra online at www.cobragarden.co.uk, and always have your Cobra serviced regularly. Check the website for your nearest dealer.